set up Anderson, and Anderson in a perfect position to perhaps return the favour. You see Anderson in the white jersey.
Yeah, I just wonder what his sprint is like, actually. I mean, having someone like Morkov do a lead out wouldn't be a bad setup for a sprint.
Yeah, let's not rule it out. He's on such good form, and there's nothing like having good legs.
No, and he's on equal seconds with Sylvain Chavanel as well. So this could be a really interesting finish for if we're just looking at the second place today.
An opportunity to pinch second. Yeah, they're level 6 seconds behind Arnaud Démare. 10, 6 and 4 seconds on offer for the first 3 across the line, remember, as Fouchard leads them across the line with just 1 lap remaining into the final 7 kilometers for these riders. Fouchard ahead of Bagdonis, well, ahead of Engoulvent, Bagdonis, Woutermal and Romain Zango. Hanging on out front, but what is their advantage going to be when they cross the line? When the bunch crosses the line very shortly, as the teams are starting to get themselves organised. And we see on the left-hand side of our picture the Top Sport Vlaanderen team assembling towards the front. Roubaix Lille Metropole in those orange jerseys. IM Cycling still absolutely burying themselves to try and do a job. I wonder if Chavanel's not thinking that he has to be mindful of Anderson as well, and maybe he's thinking about going up for the sprint. He wouldn't certainly be known as a sprinter.
No, definitely not. But then, you know, if they're worried about him as such, then they shouldn't really be taking these big turns on the front and trying to bring him back. 38 seconds now, the time gap. You know, they'd be better off leaving it as it is and basically rolling with the second place on general classification.
Well, we're inside 6 kilometers to go for the leading group out front, and their advantage just 38 seconds. So it looks as if that's well within the compass of this bunch behind, because they're really not holding back at this point. Interestingly enough, having just mentioned him, Michael Anderson was quite a way down the group, and he just had managed to pick up Michael Morkov. So those 2 riders will be working their way up. It's a relatively compact peloton, though, so I think it shouldn't be too difficult for the riders to make their way up if they have the legs.
No, it shouldn't be. It looks like quite a few riders have been shelled out the back, but then again, we only had just over 100 guys on the start line this morning, so that isn't a big bunch in any cycling event.
What an amazing job that IM Cycling have done so far today to close this down. 36 seconds, so it's nip and tuck. They cannot afford to stall at any moment. Arnaud Démare now sitting 5th in line, and it's been an armchair ride apart from that puncture and that relatively comfortable return to the bunch.
Yeah.
Démare has had a nice relaxed day, and who would bet against him doing it once more?
Big strong man on the front there, and Roger Kluge as well. He's doing a couple of solid turns.
Looks like a bit of activity in the breakaway group, but I think it's more that riders are really starting to suffer now. Inside 5 kilometers to go. Is there any way that they can hang on to that 33-second advantage? Looks like it's going to be pretty difficult at this moment, but they know they're on the final lap, and they know that they're still out front, so why not throw caution to the wind? There'll be nothing held back at this moment, and Engoulvent leading the group back onto the promenade, onto the seafront for the final time in this year's 4 days of Dunkirk. A former winner of this race overall. Engoulvent knows how to find the finish line himself, and if they did manage to hang on, well, there wouldn't be too many people betting against him in the sprint, but I think at this stage it's going to be a tough ask.
Yeah, definitely a tough ask, and it's never an exact science when you're coming in a smaller bunch as well, because it all depends on how much each rider has been given out there when they've been riding. And obviously, having been out here for some time, all of them will have tired legs, and it doesn't actually come down to who's the fastest sprinter. It comes down to who's got just that little bit of energy left in their legs. And I've seen some really strange finishes when it's come into smaller groups, and you're looking at the paper and you're going, there's no way that anyone is beating this guy. But then again, he's just worked that little bit hard, well, a little bit too hard maybe, and hasn't got the legs at the end.
A couple of days ago into Calais, of course, Démare in the group behind Chavanel It looked like he'd had a free ride to the line and would be able to pick up those final bonus seconds, but well, he just trailed in at the back of the group. He was absolutely exhausted from his efforts to hang on in that group and to pare down the advantage of the two riders up front. Didn't have anything for the sprint, gave a few seconds up to Samuel Dumoulin, but critically was close enough to the two riders up front that he hung on to his overall lead. Recovered well for yesterday's stage. Now with just over 3.5 kilometers to go, it's inside a half a minute to those riders up front. They're absolutely lined out with 3.5 kilometers to go in this stage in pursuit of these 5 riders up front. They've been out there all day. Now their advantage is inside 25 seconds as Fouchard tries to extract some more energy from somewhere in his body to try to hang on for a little while longer. Woutermans, Gediminas Bagdan has been pulling faces all day with, well, to good effect. Engoulvent, his head nodding around. And behind in the peloton, Frances Dejeu's a little bit of a stall there as the teams start to get organised, and Frances Dejeu have decided to take it up. They haven't been on the front all day. They've been on the front pretty much all of the rest of the week, though. And Frances Dejeu now have plenty of riders in hand to try and organise something for Arnaud Démare for a final flourish and a final stage victory.
Well, I think Frances Dejeu are in quite a strange position right now, because they don't necessarily want to bring these guys back, but they want to still keep control of the peloton and keep Arnaud Démare up there and out of trouble, as Engoulvent is having a go off the front.
So they finally decided to split, and Jimmy Engoulvent it is who rides away, and he's got one of the riders from Cofidis with him. It looks as if it's Romain Zangel who's on his wheel. A little flick of the elbow, another flick, and Zangel says, no, I don't fancy that. Bagdonis it is, it's having to close this one down. Ruben Lille Metropole on the front, trying to organise something for Maxime Vantom as they go to the front and set a frenetic pace. So I Am and Giant Shimano will try and reorganise and set something up for their sprinters. 22 seconds to the good as Zangel finally goes to the front and gives Engoulvent a turn. But will these two riders be able to hang on? They look like they're going to be the last men standing. Woutermans behind for Varen Classic. Dolcini is the man that is chasing them down. Gediminas Bagdan is attempting to help him, and Fouchard, it looks as if he's tailed off from the group. Europcar coming up on the right-hand side in the green jerseys. They've got a man up front, so they won't be chasing it down, but they certainly will be trying to set something up for Yannick Martinez. In the centre of picture, it's Nikias Arndt of Giant Shimano, who's been sprinting well, clearly in good form.
Not really going fast enough in that peloton either. There's a lot of guys moving around and trying to find position, but not really high enough pace on the front.
Is there any chance that these two riders could hang on out front? We've been assuming it all day long, that they were controlling it absolutely perfectly in the bunch behind, but we're still getting the indication that it's 20 seconds to the good. If anything, they just gained a second just recently, and now we're starting to see a little bit of panic. Teams are coming up in 1s and 2s, and they're all giving a turn on the front because they realise they could well have left this too late. Team NetApp Endura are up there.
I think it is too late. They've really just dropped down the pace a little bit on the final couple of kilometers, and that's left these guys out there. And I think it's between these two riders.
Well, they've got to ride it all the way to the line. Romain Zangel looks behind himself and goes, oh, I'm inside the kite. I don't want to be towing Jimmy Engoulvent to the line, so they can't afford to slow up. And Jimmy Engoulvent is playing a very, very dangerous game of poker at the moment. He shakes his head as if to say, I haven't got it, but Zangel's not going to buy that one. Zangel doesn't want to give away a possible second place. Engoulvent goes on the right-hand side. It's a perfect move from Jimmy Engoulvent. Has he hoodwinked Romain Zangel? It's a match sprint between the two on each side of the road, but it's Engoulvent who draws clear, has an enormous advantage now, and surely he's going on to a famous stage success. Former overall winner of this race, Jimmy Engoulvent, looks over his left shoulder. The man from Europcar is racing clear to take a final stage victory in this 4 days of Dunkirk for 2014. Engoulvent riding to the line. What's his advantage at the moment? He's inside the barriers. Looks like he's looking good for the win. Now Engoulvent is already celebrating a famous success. He's hung on from the early break. We assumed they wouldn't be able to do it, but they were not found wanting. Come the day, come the hour, come the man. It is Engoulvent who takes this final stage victory. Superb performance from him. Superb performance too from Roman Zangel, who's desperately trying to fight to hang on to take second place. Engoulvent gets the win. Zangel it is who gets second place, and we're not quite sure who it is who's going to get third. And I wonder who's going to win the bunch gallop. Looked as if Damar was just pipped on that occasion by possibly Chavanel, or was it Palucci? No, I don't think it was Chavanel, but that's all of minor consideration, because the celebrations between the riders in the breakaway group, Engoulvent it is who takes the final stage success.